To the west of the Kingdom of Hyrule, there lies a sea of sand, the Gerudo Desert, completely and utterly lifeless. Many years ago there was once a civilization of desert folk who used to roam these lands. However, these desert folk have now vanished into nothing. No living humans live in this vast sea of sand. All that remains of their existence are broken down ruins and structures. Yet one of these structures has endured the passage of time. Standing proudly to the north of the desert stands a grand structure. Within its walls lies dark secrets hidden away for centuries. This is the Arbiter's grounds. There are many mysteries surrounding the Arbiter's grounds. One of the biggest is, who exactly built it? That's the question I will be trying to answer in today's video. Let's start off by looking at the very clear Gerudo connections found within its walls. Throughout this colossal dungeon, there is an abundance of Gerudo imagery. Firstly, in many rooms symbols from their alphabet are sketched onto its walls and floors. Statues of their religious deity, the Goddess of Sand, are also found throughout its many halls. We know the Goddess of Sand is an important religious deity for the Gerudo, as it's a very prominent figure in the Spirit Temple in Ocarina of Time. Finally, in some rooms in the dungeon, there are depictions of a trident sketched upon its walls. At first glance, this may not seem like much. However, it's actually extremely important. The most famous Gerudo in any Zelda game is Ganon. Ganon is commonly depicted wielding a trident. In fact, in the older Zelda games, it was one of his most iconic features. It has been proven time and time again that the trident is heavily linked with the Gerudo. Furthermore, we know that in Four Swords Adventures, the trident is an incredibly important item to the Gerudo, and is a thing that should be stored away and protected. It's found in the Desert Pyramid. Due to all of this, it's safe to say that the conclusion that the Gerudo had some sort of hand in the making of the Arbiter's grounds is warranted. The Gerudo aren't the only ones that appear to have had a hand in the creation of the Arbiter's grounds. There's also a heavy royal family connection as well. Alongside the countless Gerudo symbols in the Grand Prison, there are also many Hylian symbols. The crest of the royal family is found in countless rooms all over the dungeons, alongside symbols of the Seven Sages. Although the Seven Sages are usually made up of several races, in general they are more closely related to the royal family, as their leader tends to be Zelda, who is of course a descendant of Hylia and is also a part of the royal family. Not only that, but the ancient sages also reside here in Twilight Princess. They are found at the top of the dungeon within the Mirror Chamber. It's also not out of the question that the royal family would help construct such a dark and evil place, as in the past we've seen worse and even more cruel places that they have made, the Shadow Temple being an example of one of these places. Now all of this is some pretty common knowledge. However, what if I told you there was a third party in the Arbiter's grounds creation? In some rooms and on some walls, there is a strange language. The symbols of this language match those of the Twilight, thus connecting whoever made the Arbiter's grounds to the Interlopers. This is also the location that the Interlopers were probably sent away and banished to the Twilight Realm, due to the Mirror of Twilight being located here. Finally, in the boss room there's an extremely strange image that is etched onto the wall. Although this image has Gerudo text surrounding it, the actual eye and strange swirls around it are very reminiscent to the Twilight. Due to all of this, I have a good reason to believe that in some way, Interlopers definitely had an involvement in the creation of the Arbiter's grounds. So, at some point before Ocarina of Time, it appears that three factions joined forces for a goal in mind. Now, I was wondering what this could all mean, until I realised something. Isn't it odd that out of the three races involved, only two had their language written on the walls of the Arbiter's grounds? Only the languages of the Gerudo and the Twilight are seen, nothing from the Hylians. We know that the Hylians were involved in the dungeon's creation, so surely aspects of the language would show up in the architecture of the Arbiter's grounds. However, they don't. Or do they? We know that throughout Zelda history the Hylian alphabet changes from game to game. It evolves over time. What if the language of the Twilight was actually an ancient version of the Hylian alphabet, and the Interlopers were actually Hylians? Perhaps some could have even been part of the royal family. We know that the Interlopers were involved in dark magic. At first this may seem like a Sheikah trait, however, They are not the only ones that appear to perform magic. We know that those with the blood of the goddess hold some kind of magical power. We see this with Zelda. They have this power because it is passed down from the goddess herself, so perhaps some of the magic being performed is related to the royal family in some way. We know that the Interlopers' plan was to reach the Sacred Realm, and we know that the royal family are also some of the only ones who know of its existence. Finally, we of course know that they helped construct the Arbiter's grounds. So, what if the Interlopers weren't just one race, but rather a group? What if some members of the royal family were Interlopers? In order to explain this royal family connection, we must look at a certain character, Midna, the Twilight Princess, and a descendant of the Interlopers. We know that Midna possesses powers different to the other Twilight, such as the ability to shatter the Mirror of Twilight. She also acts as a counterpart to Princess Zelda. Now, I would find it odd if she wasn't related to Princess Zelda in any way, and was just some random interloper chosen to be royalty. We know that after they were sent to the Twilight Realm, the Interlopers, now known as the Twilight, established a monarchy. Now, how did they establish it? Sure, they could have just made whoever was the leader at the time the king or queen, or they could have done something else. This process could have been made simpler by choosing a royal family member as their default ruler of the Twilight. What we appear to have here is yet another case of the evil that the royal family is hiding. A dark story forgotten by time. We always play Zelda games in the perspective of Link, on the side of the royal family. It's rare anything negative is spoken of the royal family in these games, but when it does, it's always subtle and ambiguous. The legend of Zelda is obviously told by those on the side of the royal family. Just like in the real world, these stories may be altered slightly, details may be missed to make it seem that we are the good guys. But of course, that's not always the case. We know from both the Shadow Temple and now the Arbiter's grounds, the royal family may not necessarily be the good guys in history. In fact, there's likely more to be uncovered about their dark secrets throughout the history of Hyrule. That is why it is under my belief that not only did the royal family construct the bloody and horrific Arbiter's grounds, they were also members of the Interlopers.